You're very welcome here today. Thank you so much for giving up your time. For the benefit of our viewers, I wonder if you would just introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your role and the organisation in which you're involved.
Okay. My name is Quinn. I'm a dementia nurse specialist. I work with the Living Well with Dementia service, which is based in the Memory Technology Library on the grounds of South Tip General Hospital.
Okay.
And it's a support service for people who've been diagnosed with dementia.
So do you mind asking, what's your role then within the Living Well?
So I'm one of the two nurse specialists. I'm job share and we work opposite each other, but it's a 5-day service, open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And we work with an occupational therapist, Emma O'Brien, who's already after saying a little bit about our service. So we're interlinked. We were set up in 2012 with funding from the HSE and Atlantic Philanthropies. And we were one of 4 pilot sites in Ireland that received funding, and it was to look at ways to improve the lives of people with dementia, to support people who wished to live at home for as long as they could.
Okay, so the whole process is about making living at home manageable, safe, I suppose secure, peace of mind as well?
Exactly, and it's really to show people that it is possible to live well with dementia, because obviously for a lot of people it's a very frightening time. Going to your GP, being referred to a clinic maybe, having investigations, and it's very worrying. And you know, when people are finally diagnosed with dementia, it can, you know, it's upsetting for the person and for the family. And we're a place that people can turn to after their diagnosis, explain about the diagnosis, and show people that, you know, it is possible to live well, and, you know, and small things can make a difference. And it's really to give people confidence, you know, and to have somebody that knows. And I suppose we would have the expertise to be able to, you know, give that confidence back to people, and set them up, because sometimes people find it hard to find the information. And I suppose to know, where do I look up? Who do I talk to? So when they meet you, I presume they can ask you any question. Absolutely, and we're a very flexible, informal service. Our referrals would come from GPs, they'd come from the memory clinic, the assessment clinic in Cashel, they'd come from the local general hospital, public health nurses, and people can pick up the phone and ring us themselves as well. You know, we try to, you know, make it very friendly and approachable, I suppose, you know, because people need to find that information.
The information, and they need to know that. So people need to find that information and to have somebody they can trust to talk to as well.
Yeah, and it can be done in one of 2 ways. You know, after the referral, we'll make contact. If it's a formal referral that comes into us, we'll make contact with the person. So we'll phone the person up, and we'll explain about our service and ask them, would they like to come in to see us, or would they prefer if we went out to see them in their own home? You know, and people are different. Some people will like to come into the memory technology and meet us, you know, in that kind of a setting. But a lot of people actually like that you'll call out to them and meet them in their home, and maybe meet them with family members, and to be able to talk about the issues of concern there. And then it's really about what challenges they're having day to day, and giving them the practical advice, you know, easy practical advice that they can take that will help them in their day-to-day life. So it's really about what will make life easier for them in the short term, you know, day to day. And we often say to people, you know, that there's 5, we advise that there's 5 steps, you know, that you can take, and it's, I suppose people need time to get used to the diagnosis, you know, and we even talking to us and talking through us sometimes can be very helpful and therapeutic for people. Give them a little while to get used to the diagnosis, and for their family as well, you know. So we can talk to the person individually, we can talk to them with their family, we can talk to families on their own. It's really down to whatever way
the person asks.
Somebody wants to engage with us.
And would you find, just when you're saying that, I'm just wondering, would you find that a person might come to talk to you first before they say anything to their family, so that they can even maybe figure out what they're going to say or how they're going to say it?
Some people will some people when we contact them, they'll choose to engage individually themselves before they talk to their family. The majority of people will already have discussed it with their family, or their family would have accompanied them to the memory
clinic.
Assessment clinic or in the hospital, and that, so they'd be well aware of
what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when you would do a house visit, is that a time when family maybe as well can say, we notice that Mum is forgetting this, or Dad has a habit of... And is that where you can come in then and say, that's normal and here's some ways to help?
Yeah, at that stage, you know, they would already have their diagnosis, so it would be acknowledged that, you know, there's some difficulty there. The person themselves, you know, might relay some of the things that they're finding challenging, but families might have noticed additional challenges as well. And then between us all, you know, we'd look at ways around that, you know, what would be helpful. And, you know, it's often small things like, you know, Emma is talking on one of the other podcasts.
Yeah.
It might be, you know, keeping a diary, using an orientation clock, you know, memory aids. You know, it's breaking down tasks, not to try to do too many things together. You know, if your memory is challenged, you know, it's not multitasking. So those kind of practical advice, that kind of practical advice can help people day to day. You know, you're often putting things out there, and even families might, you know, I wasn't aware of that. You know, now that I know that, you know, and they can be more supportive of the individual.
Absolutely.
You know, person.
And when you're talking about Emma, she was showing us the little booklet that you put together during, say, COVID, with ideas of things to help. And the thing that struck me, and even listening to you, is sometimes it is a simple little reminder, like just do one task, not 10 in one go.
That's it, because people, when people are experiencing memory problems, you know, the concentration or attention can be affected. So it's easy to become distracted. So you're trying to get people to focus. You know, if somebody's cooking the dinner, you know, stick with cooking the dinner and don't be looking out the window watching the washing and racing out to pick up the washing off the line. And simple things like that then can you know, when people practice it and begin to think about it a bit more, they can be the things that can just make the difference for people.
And I suppose one of the things, well, the advantage of you or Mary coming out to a house as well, is you are one step removed, offering the piece of advice, where maybe if I'm the person with dementia, I might be annoyed at my family for saying it, but I might listen to you. I suppose it's another way of supporting, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of the time it's reinforcing things. You know, things might have to be said a few times, and sometimes coming for somebody that's objective, you know, that people... And around that time, people can be upset with a diagnosis and they can be angry. And sometimes, you know, they'll be maybe more irritable with their family. So when the family are trying to advise, maybe they can get quite defensive. And by engaging with myself or Mary or Emma, you know, sometimes they can talk to us and discuss some of those things, and family likewise. And it can just take some of the tension out of situations for people. And then when they realise, you know, there's ways, things out there that can help, you know, they're often very surprised at the amount of things that are out there now, or even putting the simple little strategies in. So it's managing the day-to-day things, you know, that'll make things easier. And then managing the longer term things. You know, we talk about managing and things like, you know, thinking about making a will, enduring power of attorney. These are all things that will come up over time.
Okay.
So when we engage with people, it can often be over a couple of of appointments. It might be a once-off appointment, and people might just need some general information to start off with, but some people will need more engagement. And again, our service is a service that reacts to the individual, and we'll go with what's right for them. So it could be one visit to us, it could be 2 or 3 visits.
Do you find then that sometimes, so let's say I've been diagnosed with dementia, as the months or the years maybe go by, are there times when I might dip in and out of your service, or you might come to me as I hit different phases and stages? Does that happen sometimes?
Absolutely. So we would interact with people at all different stages of dementia. So sometimes in the early times, as I said, it might be just that they just need some general information, but they're managing very well, and they might need very little, because, they could be living at home, they could be living alone, driving their car. Some people will still be working, they'll be going out doing their shopping, socialising, getting on very well. And for us, sometimes it's actually reassuring them, actually, you know what, you're doing all the right things, you don't need us, keep doing what you're doing. And that can be very valuable to people, And then it's making contact so that they know down the road they can come back to us. So if they have a query, they can pick up the phone, they know, they've come in, they've met us, so they know I'm going to be ringing Anne or Mary. I just have a query. So that might be a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road. Or we might check in, we might say to them after the first visit, would you like us to ring you back in 6 months' time? You're doing really good, but maybe what do you think about us checking back in with you? And mostly people will say, yeah, that'd be great. Lovely. And then we check back in, and if there are any new issues beginning to emerge at that stage, well, then we can kind of have a brainstorm and look at it and see what might be helpful at that stage.
So there's a lovely open door policy.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one thing about our service is it's ever changing and very flexible. So we're not at all rigid, and we're always trying to adapt to what, because dementia is very individual. It affects people very differently. It's not uniform the way it affects people. So what supports one person might need, it be totally different for the next person. So that in that way, we're always trying to change and adapt and be open to, what will help that person at a particular time. Yeah.
So it's a very unique and individual service, I suppose, is maybe the way to say it.
Yeah. And I think the way the service was set up originally as a project service, it was very much set up in that style. So it was never a pre-prescribed service. So it was always a service it was a new service. So we had that ability to be able to, shift and change. According to the needs of individual, people that access
it's a wonderful
the
gift to the people.
Yeah,
it's really, really good. When you meet the people, whether they come into the clinic or maybe you've called to do a house visit, after that, can they come to, say, like little group sessions or small gatherings? I know obviously the last 18 months, unfortunately, that hasn't happened, but is that facility there?
Yeah, and we did get additional funding about 2 years or more ago from the National Dementia Office to set up post-diagnostic supports in the form of 6-week programmes for people at different stages of dementia. And they were running quite successfully up to the time COVID kicked in, and unfortunately, obviously, group sessions were no longer possible. But we did try to adapt, and people that would have been referred for those programmes we did see on an individual basis. So the service has continued throughout COVID, albeit at a different level. At a different level, yeah. And we're hoping to start those programmes up again. And the value of those programmes is people meeting people in the same situation as themselves, and the support that they get from that, and seeing that they're not on their own, and seeing, that you know, they can pick up tips and advice from other people, you know, and it might be somebody, just one example of one person that came to the group that was very worried about the driving and the driving assessment, but somebody else in the group had it all done and been there and had gone through it, and he said, you know, there's nothing at all to worry about, and the person was lovely, they sat in and I didn't feel nervous, and I've it done and I've it over with. So those kind of things, you know, when you're meeting in a group.
And it's, as you or I saying, it would make no difference, but somebody else who's been through it and
so
understands.
They really latched onto that, you know, and they went off and they did it then, because up to that point they were very unsure whether they'd go ahead with it.
So give a really good reassurance with it. I think that the whole word that's coming to my mind as you're speaking is it's so empowering, and it's a whole experience of giving people as much control as is possible. In a situation where maybe some things just can't be controlled, but it sounds like you're really there to support and encourage them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Often people with a diagnosis of dementia, you know, they fear that lack of control. You know, they fear that everybody is going to be coming in, telling them what to do, and that they won't have any more say. And what you're trying to do is, you know, show them that this isn't the way, and give them the confidence to go back out there and do a lot of what they would have always done, you know, and look at the things that, you know, they can still do without any help and continue to do. And if there is something that they do need a little bit of support, so take the little bit of support and still continue to do an activity, albeit maybe with some slight modification. And maybe then if there is things that you have to stop, you know, to look at it and maybe approach that head on. Just driving can be one of the things sometimes people will have to stop immediately. Not everybody. Many people will continue to drive, you know, for quite a long time. But for some people, they may have to stop very quickly if they're advised, you know. And it's trying to kind of support them in that decision, you know, that maybe that's something, but there's other ways around that then, you know, there's other ways of, you know, using local transport, you know, friends, and, you know, so how can you know.
And I suppose it's to give them the confidence to, okay, I need to talk to a friend and ask them, will they drive me instead? And I suppose it does take courage, I think, maybe to do that, because we like to be independent.
Yeah, we do like to be independent, but we do say to people, you know, like normally, you know, you wouldn't have any problem with somebody calling to the door and picking you up. You wouldn't think twice about it. And now, you know, maybe you need somebody to pick you up a little bit more often. But people are very happy to do that. And,
I think so.
You know, and sometimes you just have to say that to people, because sometimes people can be a little bit, I don't want to interfere here, and they might stand back. You know, but they'll be very happy to you know, give you the lift to the local game of cards or the church or wherever, you know. So it's not to be afraid of those things.
And you know, when you mentioned the sort of the 6-week course, can family come to that also, or is it mainly for the person who has been diagnosed with dementia?
It's for family and the person with dementia, and some of the sessions are broken up so that they'll be, you know, their own space, seen individually, their own space, and then some of the sessions are joint, you know. So there is a value in the family coming, because families are on this journey with the person, and, you know, it's to understand what's happening for the person, and, you know, to understand some of their, you know, because sometimes with the best will in the world, families can become very overprotective when somebody gets a diagnosis of dementia, and sometimes that actually can be maybe as harmful as not providing any support at all, because it can maybe take away some of the skills of the person, you know. And family might say, oh, I don't think you should be driving anymore, I don't think you should walk down to the shop on your own anymore, whereas the person with dementia may be well capable of doing those things. And sometimes you know, families need to come to that understanding, you know.
And it's probably done with love.
Oh, the best will in the world, you know, And it's just maybe a lack of understanding of dementia. So that's the whole understanding and knowledge about dementia is important. And I suppose that's something that we can do through our service. So it's you know, learning what the right amount is. It's all about the appropriate amount of support at the appropriate time. For the person.
And I think that's a lovely thing, that if family can go to some workshops like that, where again, I suppose they have the support of others who are in a similar situation. And I mean, one thing I've learned from you today is that there isn't a one prescription fits all.
Absolutely.
That dementia will impact a person's life in different ways at different times.
Yes.
And even for the family to hear that. So I suppose we all probably need some education around it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good sites out there now. Understand Together has done huge work with regards to educating people and campaigns nationwide, and there's been a lot of programs on recently, even during COVID, on television, some really nice programs with regards to, and I think the more that people see people with dementia talking about it and explaining their experience, and explaining what it's like for them and the challenges that are there because of the lack of understanding that's out there, and the more information out there and the more acceptability, it'll just make it easier for people.
And I suppose there's that thing of being able to have a conversation then with somebody, and I'm not crossing the street instead of talking to you. I'm okay to stand and chat with you, and if you if you recognise me, that's great. If you don't, I'm not going to take it personally. I suppose even that, to know it's okay. I'm I can say hello to you. It's not going to do any harm to either of us.
Absolutely, and it's just that everybody's that bit more comfortable. And it's just oftentimes, people will be out and they'll meet somebody with a dementia, and the person might have forgotten their name, or they might be struggling to find a word when they're talking to them. So if there's more understanding out there, generally people will be more comfortable about how they react. Or if they meet somebody in the shop, they might, and the person forgets their PIN when they're up at the cash register, just a little bit of gentle support. Maybe, did you check,
absolutely,
your bag,
a question
or,
could
some
solve
little,
it.
rather than, getting irritated because you're waiting in line, and so little things like that would make a huge difference to people.
And it goes by, it's the small things, that make a huge difference. There's a lot of support required. Are there other groups or people involved that offer support?
There are the Alzheimer's Society, is the Lacorda Daycare Centre in Clonmel, and the Alzheimer's Society have a dementia advisor service. But another wing of our service is we actually, when we do an assessment for somebody, we actually have dementia support workers. So some people might need just some additional help. It's more around social interaction. So it's different than the normal home care assistant that would go in to help somebody that might have a physical disability that needs help getting dressed, getting up and getting dressed, and things like that. This is more a social interaction. And again, it's very important when it comes to dementia to keep socially connected and mental stimulation. So our support workers would visit somebody at home, and usually it's for a block of hours, so it could be once or twice a week. It would involve it can help somebody to accompany them to the shop, to go down and get their shopping, to engage with local activities. So it might be accompanying somebody to go swimming, to go to the local resource centre, or just go for a walk and a cup of coffee. So you're having conversation and you're reminiscing, and it's stimulating, cognitively stimulating for somebody with dementia. As well as that, it can also provide a break for the carer. So if you have a family carer that's maybe not able to get out and about as much, so if the support worker is going in for 2-3 hours, spending time with the person with dementia, the family carer has time to themselves as well.
And maybe they can get something done that they need to do.
Yeah,
or just
So part of our assessment would involve whether the person might benefit from having a support worker. And the support worker can visit somebody at any stage. Sometimes somebody who's newly diagnosed and in the early stages just might feel a bit low and feel a bit down and have lost a little bit of confidence and might stop going out and doing a lot of the activities that they might previously have done. And sometimes the support worker can engage for a short period of time with them, just a little bit of company and companionship, get them baback on the horse, so to speak, and get them back out there. And once they're back out there, then the support worker might need to visit again. They might be a short intervention, 6 or 12 weeks. Or for people then maybe that might need an extra little bit of support. Some people that are a little bit further along, it might be a continuous, so it might be a visit, every week indefinitely. And again, activities in or out of the home, whichever is preferable for the person themselves.
And I suppose again, you mentioned at the beginning there about the idea that because I suppose I'll use the word, this is new, there wasn't a script, you must follow this, so that obviously the support workers, again, that's a lovely freedom that's there to be able to say, as you said, well, it might just be for 5 or 6 weeks, it might be for 12 weeks, or it might be for longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not a rush. You've only got 4 weeks with this.
No. It's never a rush, and it's never going to be just cut off. If the person still needs it, the person will continue to get it.
Yeah.
So as long as they need it, it'll be there for them. And it's become a very valuable service, because sometimes people with dementia, they don't need the home care. They don't need somebody going up helping them to get up and get dressed because they're able to do that. But they need the help around the social stimulation. And we'd also on occasion have provided crisis support where maybe a family carer would have to go into hospital or have to go for a hospital appointment, and we would be able to put somebody in maybe for a day, a full day, or even an overnight stay. We've done throughout COVID where people have been struggling, where other services have been suspended and people have I suppose found it very difficult. So again, it's that flexibility is the value of the service, I think.
I think that's probably the biggest thing is that flexibility to be able to do things. And I love the sound of those courses as well, that the 6 weeks of support. I think there's a lovely support there. I love the piece that you have, that the acknowledging and the learning and understanding. And about making small changes, just for what suits the person, for where they're at right now.
That's it, and not to be trying to jump ahead. It's where you're at, and the small changes can make all the difference.
This has just been absolutely fantastic. Can I just check? A person is referred to you. But I can also ring you.
Absolutely, and as I said, the referrals would come through the local memory assessment clinic, which is based in Cashel, the hospital, the local hospital, GP, public health nurse, or primary care, any of the primary care professionals. But absolutely, a family member or the person themselves, pick up the phone, ring us, and with your permission, then we might liaise with the GP just regards to. With regards to absolutely, and then you can come to see us. We'll go out to see you, whatever suits you. So that's what we'd like to urge people. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone to us.
Yeah. That's a lovely nugget to finish up on. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for giving your time.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate it.